Cao Cao, the strategic mastermind. Regarded as a strategic genius, a powerfully cunning and shrewd statesman who pursues victory at any cost, and ensures that the ends always justify the means. Considered ruthless by some, he nonetheless looks out for his followers and treats them with generosity. He is mindful and considerate, protecting his supplies as well as his people during troubled times. Hello, my name is MrSmartDonkey, and today we're going to be taking a look at the ins and outs of Cao Cao's faction in Total War Three Kingdoms. We're starting off with Cao Cao's character and faction specializations. Cao Cao's unique character traits are minus 10% upkeep for cavalry and plus 15 military supplies. While 10% upkeep cost reduction doesn't seem like a lot at first glance, one has to remember that cavalry are the most expensive units in the game, and Cao Cao gets a couple of really strong unique cavalry units, so this bonus is better than you might think. Plus 15 military supplies are incredibly useful too. They will allow Cao Cao to hang out in enemy territory much longer without having to worry about running out of supplies. Cao Cao's unique resource is credibility, which allows him to incite proxy wars, telling other factions to go to war with each other without you joining either side, which can be very useful for taking out factions you don't want to declare war on yourself, an ally that's no longer useful to you, perhaps. Credibility can also be spent on influencing diplomatic relations, making people like or dislike you or someone else. Credibility is not a resource you earn by doing specific deeds, it recovers over time. The lower it is, the faster it recovers. Cao Cao's playstyle focus is diplomatic manipulation, which of course leads us back to his proxy wars and diplomatic influence, making others do your dirty jobs for you. Cao Cao has two unique units, these are Tiger and Leopard Cavalry and Heavy Tiger and Leopard Cavalry. Both solid shock cavalry with a devastating charge and a shield to protect them from archer fire. We will have a more in-depth look on them later. Cao Cao has two unique buildings, the farming garrisons and the Tunshin conscription, with the former being a replacement for the farm's resource building that trades a tiny bit of food for a large replenishment bonus. The latter is a replacement for the conscription building, which rather than capping out at level 3, goes all the way up to level 5, and increases food production in the commandery at level 4 and 5. Cao Cao is accompanied by his trusted generals Xiao Hu Dun and Xiao Hu Yuan, whom we will look at in more detail later. Cao Cao starts in the capital of Chen, with his army facing off against a small Han Empire army. The capital of Chen is a level 2 town that starts with a land registry office already built, immediately providing you with some food and income from peasantry. This is the perfect building to start with in this commandery, as both of the resources in this province provide food as well. The other building slot is empty, and I would strongly recommend building the government support building there to increase your food production even further. That brings us to your neighbors. In the west, southwest and south, you are bordered by the Han Empire, who will be your main adversary at the start of the campaign, as you will likely take the livestock farm to your south on turn 1, and to round off Chen Commandery, you want to take the farmland in the west too. Finally, they own the capital of Yingqian to the northwest, which starts at level 4 and thus has walls which makes it a nice defensive place to own early. To your north in the farmland of Yingqian is Liu Dai, whom you might want to stay friends with early on, as they provide you with an immediate trade partner. While not a direct neighbor, it's worth mentioning that to your east across the lake, Yellow Turban rebels call the Temple of Pengcheng home, but they will soon get taken out by Tao Qian, who will likely be an enemy before long, as this is where your initial dilemma will lead you. One of Tao Qian's officers robbed and murdered Cao Cao's father, Cao Song, and it's up to you to either choose revenge and war, or forgiveness and peace. Moving on to Cao Cao's already unlocked reform, which is regional commissioners, granting him 8% recruitment cost reduction. This also leads to military markets, a crucial reform to unlock early on for most factions, but since Cao Cao already gets an extra 15 supplies from his character specialization, it's not as necessary for him. Finally, we'll have a look at Cao Cao's family tree, which is quite extensive. It should however be said that Cao Song will be killed in the initial dilemma after just a few turns, and Cao Ang and Cao Pi are still children, so besides Cao Cao there's really only his cousin Cao Ren and his wife Lady Bian. Moving on to your legendary characters, starting with Cao Cao himself. The strategic mastermind is a commander, meaning he excels at inspiring friendly troops but is not the greatest melee combatant. He, as well as all other legendary characters, have +1 resilience, giving him a second chance after getting defeated in battle. Other than that, he gets a boatload of stat increases as well as the faction-wide buffs we looked at earlier. Cao Cao's traits are ambitious, dutiful, and suspicious, which provide him, among other things, with increased undercover network cost for enemy spies, and a bunch of things that all actually have no influence on your faction leader in any way, shape or form. Having said that, it is important to note that if you're playing as a different faction and Cao Cao's faction gets destroyed but Cao Cao himself lives on, you or other factions might be able to recruit him, and so long as he's just another lord in your court, those things do matter. Moving on to his skills, which provide him with buffs such as morale when attacking, battle running speed, and most importantly, an ability that provides 1900% charge resistance and 100% melee evasion, as well as unbreakable to all units in range, making them in essence immune to any kind of melee damage for the duration. Finally, Cao Cao has his famed Trust of God sword, his own unique armor, and of course Shadowrunner, a horse set to move so swiftly it outran its own shadow. These provide him with incredible stat buffs as well as immunity to fear and terror, ranged block chance, increased speed, and more. Next up is Xiao Hudun, the hot-headed officer. Xiao Hudun is a champion, perfect for assassinating enemy generals but susceptible to getting bogged down by regular units. His faction-wide bonus increases the starting rank for all units by 1, but this of course is only enabled if he's your prime minister, faction heir, or leader. Xiao Hudun's traits are dutiful, reckless, and fiery, which among other things grant him personal satisfaction, speed, and charge speed. Xiao Hudun's skills provide him with buffs such as fatigue resistance for his retinue, scaring enemy units, and most importantly an ability that reduces the speed of any unit it hits and does a little bit of splash damage. Finally, Xiao Hudun only has one unique item, and that's his armor, which provides him with charge deflect as well as lowered retinue upkeep. Finally, there's Xiao Hu Yuan, the maker of ways. Xiao Hu Yuan is a vanguard, meaning he excels at breaking through enemy troops but shouldn't be left alone against enemy generals. His faction-wide bonus is increased attrition to hostile forces, but again this isn't active unless he becomes Prime Minister, heir, or faction leader. He also has the assignment Military Requisition unlocked, which lowers food in the province in return for reduced recruitment costs. Xiao Hu Yuan traits are dutiful, energetic, and resourceful, which among other things provide him with personal satisfaction, increased campaign movement range, and reduced penalty from desire for higher office. Xiao Hu Yuan's starting skills provide him with buffs such as increased charge speed for his retinue, mighty knockback for himself, and most importantly an ability that makes his charges incredibly strong. Finally, Xiao Hu Yuan also only has one unique item, his armor, which provides him with ranged block chance and lowered retinue upkeep. To round this category off, Cao Cao, Xiao Hudun, and Xiao Hu Yuan are friends, giving them the friend and fallen friend relationship effects when they're in the same army, with the former granting small buffs while both are alive, and the latter providing a huge buff when one of them falls in battle. Let's have a look at Cao Cao's unique units, of which there are two. The Tiger and Leopard Cavalry and Heavy Tiger and Leopard Cavalry, with both fulfilling a very similar rule, which is to demolish anything and everything on the charge. But let's start with the former. Tiger and Leopard Cavalry are available for Cao Cao's generals once they reach level 3. While they're available fairly early on, they're more of a mid to late game unit, as they're quite expensive both in terms of recruitment as well as upkeep costs. That's not to say they're not worth it though. They're an incredibly strong unit on the charge, and despite their slow movement, they're fairly well protected from archer fire due to their shields. They really heavily rely on their charge though, meaning you shouldn't leave them in melee for too long after the charge, as their effectiveness dwindles significantly. Let's move on to the Heavy Tiger and Leopard Cavalry, which are available for Cao Cao's generals once they reach level 6. This is a very similar unit to the regular Tiger and Leopard Cavalry, as you might already be able to tell from the name. They have slightly higher morale, charge bonus, and armor, which also makes them a little slower, and a little more expensive. They can be quite closely compared to Jade Dragons, which are a lot more heavily armored, but in turn have a lower charge bonus, and they also don't get some of the traits Cao Cao's unique cavalry gets, such as disciplined and immune to scare. One final thing in favor of these relatively expensive but powerful unique units, I'd like to mention that on top of Cao Cao's minus 10% upkeep for cavalry units, Xiao Hu Yuan gets an additional minus 15% upkeep for his personal retinue, making these unique cavalry units a lot more affordable for him, and as he's a vanguard, he's the perfect character to have them in his retinue. That's going to do it for the Cao Cao faction overview. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them in the comments and I shall do my best to answer them. Also let me know which faction you'd like to see covered next. Finally, if you're thinking of purchasing Free Kingdoms yourself, you're in luck. I am affiliated with 2Game, an official online retailer that's currently selling Free Kingdoms at a very attractive price. And if you use my code SmartDonkey, you get an additional 10% off as well. You'll get an official Steam key upon purchasing the game. If the game is region locked for you, just change the currency in the top left of the screen and that'll fix it. If you'd just like to support me making this type of content instead, make sure to check out my Patreon page. All the relevant links will be in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Have a good day and goodbye.